Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Friday morning mastermind. Today, I've got myself and Mr. Todd Bookspan. Todd, go ahead and talk.
Good morning, everyone.
So I don't know how well you can hear him. Todd and I are dealing with some audio issues and in the room that we're recording, and this is what we got. But we are both here. We're going to kind of hand off the mic to each other throughout the call today. This is going to be a little different than our typical Friday mastermind. If you're new to this Friday mastermind, like this is the first time you've been here, just know that it's a mastermind. That means everybody on the call can ask questions. Everybody on the call can listen to answers and can share answers. So while we do have some mentors that are regular, Todd and I co-lead this. I feel like 80% of the time it's both of us. So we try to both show up. And then we have some amazing mentors. You know, we have Michelle Town, who's on today's call. What's up, Michelle?
Morning, everybody.
Good morning. So good to have you. We have a special mentor today. We have Coach Bill Hart. What's up, Coach?
Hey, buddy. I am fired up to be here. You've got some of my favorite people here today, and I got to tell you, if you're on this call, be 100% focused because you're going to be glad you're here.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's being recorded. So also, if you're watching the recording, any links that we talk about during the call, probably Josh's slides, they'll be below. So hopefully what we're going to talk about over the next hour is going to be powerful. It's going to be game-changing. So like it. If you get a takeaway, like it below, and share it with your mortgage friends. If you're a team leader, branch manager, regional leader, share this with your team. I think it's going to be a powerful hour of value. Now, before I bring Josh on stage, typically this call has a central theme: how to get more out of you, so personal productivity, and how to get more out of the day. You know, that is the theme of our Friday call. This Friday call was given birth by Darren Hardy's Insane Productivity Program, and all the mentors and most of the leaders on this call have been through Darren's personal productivity. It's called Insane Productivity with Darren Hardy, and we created a special version for Mortgage Coach. So also I'm going to put a link below. If you've not been through that, there's a $500 discount from Mortgage Coach to sign up for it. There'll be a link below to do it. So let's get into the big show. Josh Mettle, why don't you go ahead and click the button so we can see you, and let's start a cool conversation. What's up, Josh?
Josh, audio on.
There you go.
Good morning.
Yeah. Audio on. Hey, it's awesome to have you. So a little bit of a backstory. I've interviewed Josh a number of times. One of my all-time favorite calls is called Price to Advice with Josh Mettle. There'll be a link below. And I would say that story and Josh's success within the Mortgage Coach community would not have happened without Coach Bill Hart. So Bill,
no doubt.
Thank you for introducing me to Bill or to Josh. And not only the introduction, but it took Josh a while to go from, I know I should use Mortgage Coach and deliver a total cost analysis to my family, till you finally did it. So, I mean, that wasn't like a one email introduction, one phone call, and it was done. You know, it took some time. So, Bill Hart, big thank you, brother.
Yeah, I needed some serious pounding from first Bill and then you, and I'm grateful we made that switch. But it took some time, and without mentors like you guys, it would have never happened.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you as part of our community. And again, if you're either new to Mortgage Coach, you're a new loan officer, or you just want to go to the next level, Price to Advice with Josh Mettle below is pure gold. It's scripts, it's tactics on how to be effective with Mortgage Coach and how to be effective with families. But Josh, I know you have a different conversation today, and I'll pull up your slides whenever you start talking about them. But why don't you tell everybody the backstory to the presentation you're going to give. I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen because I really want you to just step on stage and present. And then I would say the first half of this call, everybody, is going to be Josh presenting some ideas and concepts. And then the second half, it'll be very Q&A focused. Bill Hart, I do know that you need to leave about halfway through. So Josh, let's about like the 20 to 25 minute mark, let's let Coach Bill Hart kind of unpack where you're at in the call so we get some Bill Hart value. And then Todd and I will unpack it at the end. Sound good?
Sounds great, man. Hey, and let me just kick off by giving all three of you guys a huge, huge kudos. Bill has been a coach and mentor of mine for, I think, going back 10 years. I actually met Bill when I was at a real low season for me in terms of mortgage origination, and he yanked me by the back of my neck up, marched me forward, and helped me build the team that we have today. Todd Bookspan is my current coach. Garrett Cormany, my previous coach, and without these mentors, we're going to get into that a little bit with these 5 traits, but without these mentors, there is literally no chance that I would be here today and have the team that we have and have had the perspective. And Dave, not only your influence on me in our personal dealings, but man, I've watched virtually every video in the YouTube video for Mortgage Coach. People like Jeremy Forestier, Wally Alliberry, I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. I know I'm missing a lot of superstars, but anyways, you guys have been massive mentors to me, and I just want to give you a massive thank you before we kick off.
Grateful for our friendship and grateful to have you in this community, Josh.
Thanks, Dan. Hey, so let's start off with a theme for our team and for the company that I work for, Fairway. And that theme, that is this value that we live by, the code that we live by, is humble, hungry, and smart. And that code warrants how we show up every day, who we hire, who we don't hire, how we tell each other how we're doing within our team, and how we decide who we want to bring into our culture. And that humble, hungry, and smart comes from Patrick Lencioni's book, The Ideal Team Player. And that may be a weird intro into a conversation that is titled The 5 Traits of the Millionaire Mortgage Professional. But this conversation that we're going to have really comes from the most humble of humble pieces or parts of my heart. And I want to maybe kick off and give you the backstory on how we came up with these traits and why I decided to share them in kind of a public format. You know, the first 20 years of my life was a real financial challenge. And I don't mean the kind of challenge where you're making so much money that you don't know what to do with it and you're tapping out the FDIC limits in your bank account. I mean the kind of financial challenge where as a kid I remember opening the fridge and I would take a mental survey of how much food was in the fridge to determine if I needed to ration lunch and breakfast so we had enough food for dinner. It was eggs for breakfast and egg salad sandwiches for lunch, and then there was a quiche or eggs for dinner because my mom was a single mother. She did a phenomenal job in terms of loving and caring for me, but money was always a challenge for us. And she knew that with $1, she could get a dozen eggs, and there was 75 grams of protein in those dozen eggs. And for another $1, she could get a loaf of bread, and between a loaf of bread and a dozen eggs, you could make about 3 days' food. So that's not bad, right? $2, 3 days' food, that's pretty good nutrition. I remember there was a real defining moment that I think changed the way I view the world and how I have progressed over the last 20 years. And I remember like it was yesterday, we were at a grocery store, Food for Less grocery store on 3500 South and Redwood Road in West Valley City, Utah. I was probably about 12 years old, and we were at the checkout stand, and this gal that was at the checkout called over the overhead speaker, and she said, we need a manager's assistant on aisle 9 for a food stamps purchase. And I realized at that moment that we were really poor. We were buying groceries. We were getting by on food stamps. And at that moment, you know, I made a decision that I would never allow that to happen to me. I was going to have to find my own way. I was going to have to figure out my own solutions. I was going to have some grit and figure this thing out because although my mother was the most caring woman in the world, she never missed a sporting event, always gave me 100%. She's the benchmark that I measure myself at as a parent, and I have some room for growth. But money was always a challenge, and I knew that I was going to have to figure that one out. So by the age of 13, I was watching CNBC, and I'm watching the ticker symbols across the bottom, and somewhere in all that Mandarin code, I figured there must be some secrets to money and success. I remember going downtown in Salt Lake City, Utah, looking up the big skyscrapers, and I marveled at how in the world is it that we can't get eggs and bread, or struggle to do so, and where does all this money come from for these buildings? Like, how does that happen? And so that growing up process where we had a little bit of challenge and struggle, it gave me a couple of beautiful gifts that I didn't realize at the time, but looking back, I'm extremely grateful for. The first one of those gifts is grit. You know, I know what that feels like, and that uneasy sense to not have enough food in the fridge, and I am willing to do anything to not have my family experience that, and not to have that feeling again. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm trying to figure out how in the heck do I give my kids grit. I'm thinking about just, maybe if I throw out all their sugar, that would give them grit. I don't know. Somebody help me. But the other thing it did is it made me curious. It made me really, really curious as to what are the secrets to success? Where can I get these ideas? And so for the last 20 years, I have been really interested in people that are more successful than me. And I've been extremely blessed to have people like Bill and Todd and Dave in my life, a lot of mortgage professionals that are involved in the Building Champions group over the years that I have silently mentored and watched and studied, and how do they move, how do they talk, how do they interject, and I've tried to model those successes. I do not think I'm all that intelligent, but I am extremely curious, and I'm pretty good at implementing things when I see something working well for somebody else. So, as I went through the last 20 years and kind of came up with these traits that have worked so successful for me, what's interesting is I've started to watch some of the other loan officers in our branch. And some of them have started to model or pick up, or as we've had conversations, they've started to adapt. And, we read books, we listen to podcasts together, we watch Mortgage Coach YouTube videos together, we share thoughts collaboratively via email. I mean, it's a cesspool of ideas that are flowing around here. And as I notice the loan officers in my environment that are having more and more and more success, I notice that they're starting to demonstrate these 5 traits. And there is absolutely nothing cooler in the world than not only implementing something yourself and have it work, but having somebody else model and implement some of those things and having it work for their life. And that's really the genesis of wanting to share some of these traits, is because I think if it can help the loan officers in our environment, it can very well help some of the loan officers out there that aren't in our environment on a daily basis. So guys, I want to just pause there. I'm going to jump into the 5 traits, but anything to add? I feel like I need to catch my breath.
Well, I'm going to let Coach Bill interject, just because Coach is going to have to leave soon. So, Coach, anything you want to add at this point of the presentation?
Well, I really want people to hear what Josh just laid out. It's pretty easy to label people and make assumptions about their packaging, and Josh being the hideous looking guy that he is with that $1 million smile, it's pretty easy to make some assumptions, and I think he just dispelled every one of them. Josh, that story that you told about the food stamps purchase, dude, like lump in the throat on that one. So I remember you telling me a story early on about you selling bags of popcorn around the pool and making more money in a day than your mom had made when you were, what, like 8?
Yeah, I was hustling popcorn for like 4 years, but 8 was about the right age group.
So I want people to hear that, but the most important thing, Dave, that I want them to hear that's coming from Josh is that he's grateful, he's gracious, he's fully present, and he's curious. And I'm just going to share this, Josh. I don't know if you were going to go there or not, but to me, it's just so fundamental to everything that you've done. I'm sure one of the 5 is going to have something to do with your schedule and time blocking. And, you know, in my book, White Collar Warrior, scheduled for release Father's Day, 2018, I use you, not your name, but I use you as an example, comparing it to a Navy SEAL about how their days begin. And there was a day where you were waking up at 3:30 in the morning, and I remember you telling me that Steve Jobs, for all his foibles, was also remarkably successful, and that he used the expression calibrating his day. What I want people to hear is, and again, I'm sure you're going to touch on it, but that idea of opening up your day by looking at what's most important to you and calibrating it in terms of your life plan and your business plan is probably, arguably, the single most important thing that I've ever heard you do personally. So I just want to call you out on that, give you a virtual high five, tell you that I'm enormously proud of you, and I love you, brother.
Thanks, man. I love you too. That is number 3. You are absolutely right. And these aren't ranked in importance. It's almost kind of an evolution from a foundational level up. But I welcome you to interject, Bill. I'd love this to be more conversational than a speech. So number 1 of the 5 traits of the millionaire loan officer. And by the way, there is a huge difference between making $1 million and saving. And we're going to get into that. That's number 5. But I spoke to a group of loan officers a couple of weeks ago, and a couple of them have only been in the business since 2010. And I realized they've never had a down year. So we're going to get there. But number 1 on this list is dream big. And if you just put down your pencil like that, you know, like that's not worth writing a note for. You really got to get this one. I read a book very early, about 20 years old, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and it was probably the most influential book on my entire life because it gave me permission to dream big, and it told me that I didn't have to figure out all the steps between where I am now and the way to get there. So, you know, if you kind of picture this, I'm a 21-year-old kid who has a high school education from Granger High School in West Valley City, Utah. It is not the most renowned educational high school in Utah. I'll just give you that hint. And I've entered the mortgage business, and I'm reading this book, and I have this kind of drive. But I didn't really know where it was going. I read this book, and in this book, Napoleon says there's this great quote, whatever the mind of a man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And so in this book, he talks about, don't worry about all the steps. You just have to visualize the future destination, and just pull yourself a little closer each day. You revisit that visualization, and before you know it, you'll get there. And the way I've always kind of thought of that is as your future building, as your future vision building and dreaming, you almost take like this anchor, and you like huck it into the future, right? Like 20 years or 30 years, and you go, I have no idea how I'm going to get to that anchor. But if I just grab this rope and I just take some steps every day, before you know it, I think I can get to that vision. Now, the reason why dreaming big is so important is because all the steps to get there is hard. It sucks some days, and you're going to have to fight through that. And we're going to get into some of the kind of real tactical things that we do. But if your vision is small or isn't big enough to compel you, like I'm talking about, like how could this vision impact your wife, your kids, and if you play it right, your kids' kids, like that kind of a vision. So if you have that big of a vision and then someone rejects you on a call or a sales meeting, or you don't land the builder that you had your heart into, you could just kind of say, man, this is really hard. I'm not really that good at it. I'm not going to make my calls today to my clients. And that would be a massive mistake. If your vision is big enough and you have a big enough goal, then I think you can power through that. So at 20, I followed the instructions of Napoleon Hill, and he said you have to write this down specifically. What is your life going to look like? And then you have to continue to revisit that. And in that moment, I wrote down that my big wild dream would be to buy 100 rental properties. At that time, I had one. And because I figured that by the time I was 60, all those rental properties would be free and clear, and that would be a pretty good retirement. And the other thing I had a vision of or I wrote down was I wanted to do 100 loans in a month. Now, I was doing like 2 loans a month. So who in the world am I? Why would that even, it's not even reasonable, right? Doesn't matter. You figure it out as you move forward. You learn, you make mistakes, you eat some humble pie, you get back to work the next day, and you go back chasing your big, beautiful vision down the road. So start with dreaming big. If you haven't read Think and Grow Rich, consider buying the original 1938 manuscript. They make this little tiny like paperback book right now that's the watered down version. Forget that. Go on Amazon or find the original manuscript. It's like 600 pages, and just it's definitely worth its weight if you haven't done a good enough job dreaming big. So I'd start there. That's our number one step.
Hey Josh, I want to jump in before you go to the next piece. And first of all, I think that was so powerful. I hope folks really sunk into that. And Todd and I are here. We posted on Facebook, a question to everybody, and we don't want you to multitask right now because I do think it's super important to be present and really listen to this. And I also think a lot of folks we're gonna need to re-listen to it. So remember, it is recorded. You're gonna be able to listen to this conversation again. But share what is your big goal? I remember one of my first big goals. I never had the 100 houses, but I wanted to generate $1 million in gross commissions. That was in 1 year. And by the way, when I think I made that goal, I think I had done 60 or 100,000. It was like my first year or second year in the business. But I just man, if I could do $1 million, I call them GCCs, gross commission checks. Back in the day, I was a broker. That was my big goal. What is your big goal? Share that in comments. One of the things that makes this mastermind so valuable is we engage, we share. Josh is on the leadership, podium right now. But guys, this is a mastermind. We can learn from you. Josh can learn from you. I can learn from you. We can learn from each other. So sometime before the end of the day, in the Facebook group, or if you're watching this on YouTube, in comments below, as a mortgage professional, what's your big vision? What's your big goal? Let us know. Let's learn together, and let's inspire each other together. Coach Bill Hart, I know you're going to have to go, so we want to get as much from you as we can. Any coaching notes before Josh gets to number 2?
Yeah, I don't think so. I cannot tell you how often I feel like, and Todd Booksman, you can probably say the same thing. I feel like I have been the only person to speak into somebody's life as a coaching client that ever said to them, dream big. So Josh, I love that you're doing that. I love that you're calling it out. Somebody right now live and somebody later watching this recording is going to have that hit their heart, and it's going to make that 18-inch journey from their heart to their brain, and they're going to engage. And dude, the anchor, like seriously, I think you need to buy some anchors attached to cords. That could be like something you could sell. I absolutely love that visual. Chunk it out in front of you, grab onto the rope, and let it pull you toward. Dude, so good.
The other thing that just reminded me of, Bill, is that when you do that and you create that big dream, you now have to have the conversation with your spouse, or at least I did, about, what do you think about this? And that's a really uncomfortable conversation when you're dreaming super big and you're still, relatively small. But if you get buy-in from your spouse on the destination and the why behind the destination, because we can impact our kids, then as you're going through the journey and you have the ups and downs, it makes it a totally different experience. It really just kind of insulates or nullifies that friction. So bring your spouse into the mix.
So to that point, Josh, there's an old adage that says people support what they help to create. Totally. My guess is that your bride, Hillary, spoke into your vision and brought some seasoning to your idea. My guess is that wasn't 100% Josh. It may not have been 50-50, but I know for sure she spoke into the vision about your schedule.
No doubt. Absolutely true. 100%.
Right on.
All right. Number 2, feed your mind and creativity daily. And I really am being completely honest. I'm not trying to be overly humble. I am not that smart. I mean, literally, if my right-hand man was here and you asked him who makes the most mistakes and does the dumbest stuff in the office, hands down, Sam is going to say, it's Josh, for sure. Like, I'm not all that intelligent, but what I'm curious. I'm very curious. And so what I figured out was that I wasn't going to be able to figure these steps out on my own. I was going to need to read. I was going to need to listen to podcasts. In the introduction video that we did for this, we filmed it with Dave last week. I showed Dave on my phone. There's a little icon that has wisdom, and I fill that with all of the digital podcasts and YouTube videos from Mortgage Coach and all of the books that I'm constantly trying to bring things in to educate myself because I'm just not that smart. And the other thing that has been really, really successful for me is starting coaching relatively early. I mean, I wish I would have started it 10 years before I did, but the impact of having a coach who can look at you from an outside perspective, and I've been blessed because Bill and Garrett Cormany and Todd have always been gifted at listening to, letting me go and letting me talk and then go, okay, yeah, but did you think about this dude or did you think about that? And it's the this thing and the that thing that kind of gets it all lined up. And if you don't have that outside perspective, it's really more challenging. For me, maybe not possible. I'd also say, you know, I was able to join Building Champions Masters Coach group early and surround myself with loan officers that were vastly beyond me, way beyond me. Big teams doing massive production, Linda Davidson doing 100 transaction months, like left and right. It's no big deal. We just do that. I mean, are you kidding? Paul Hershire, you know, like vacations 180 days a year and writes as much business as anybody. I mean, these guys are just monsters in the industry, and surrounding yourself with people that are beyond you in terms of your maturation and your education is a massive catalyst to your success. So if you're not doing that, if you haven't created some time to feed yourself your learning and your education and your growth, I think it's going to be hard for you to reach that end goal. I am 100% certain I would not be here today having accomplished both of those original big goals I set out 20 years ago if I wouldn't have done step 2.
Hey Josh, before we move to step 3, I would love to make sure everybody has a bit of a vision on how you leverage the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. I know when we did the promotional call for this one, you know, you pulled up your mobile phone, you showed them how you get wisdom. I don't want to put you on the spot and make you pull up your mobile phone unless it's in your hand right there. But I am showing, oh, there it is. Show everybody, I call it just like a productivity hack of how, 1, you've created this category, and 2, how you've put the Mortgage Coach channel into it. Would you mind just doing a minute on that? Because I think it would be powerful for people, and it would just be a useful productivity tool if they knew how to do what you're doing.
Well, and it's a reminder too, like, you know, you'll watch a Jeremy Fercier video and you go, gosh, this guy's smart. There is some incredible content on this Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. And then you get into ABC and Real Life Happens, and then you forget that Danny Harani's on next week, and his is, you know, mind-blowing as well. So here's what we did. We took the, if you can see that, we took, all right, so this is my wisdom, and you'll see the YouTube button right there that says Mortgage Coach, okay? So if you go to the YouTube channel for Mortgage Coach, at the bottom, there's this little button right there, that little like piece of paper with the line through it thing. You just click that, and then you just do add to home screen. At the very bottom, it says add to home screen. And then it just becomes an icon on your desktop, and then I just drag the desktop into the wisdom folder. And the way I do my, you know, drives, or if I'm out on a walk or anything like that, I just click into wisdom. I usually just circulate around, and I'm catching myself up on all the videos and all the podcasts that I subscribe to.
Love that. So, and what would you prescribe to someone who wants to be the most successful loan officer possible? How much time should they spend watching the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel? And then obviously that's not the only source of content, but what, you know, prescribe how much Mortgage Coach YouTube channel and how much, call it creative learning should someone do on a weekly basis? What is your advice, Dr. Josh?
Well, I wish that I did a lot more than I do. And life and 2 young kids and trying to be a husband and take care of myself, and have some workout time. There's not a lot of time, and I'm sure that a lot of our listeners feel the same way. So for me, the way it works is before I go to bed, I have a book on the side of my bed. I'm reading The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday right now, which is phenomenal. And I'll usually it's a great, it's a must. I'm probably read 4 or 5 pages of that a night. I'm off to bed in the morning. I'm driving to the gym. I'm coming back to the gym. I'm usually listening to my podcast. I'm driving to work. I'm coming back. I'm listening to a podcast or watching the YouTube channel. I usually try to get in at least 1 or 2 hikes in a week if I can, and I'm listening to usually the YouTube channel or a podcast or a book on tape. So I don't know, I'm probably getting 30 minutes at least a day, and then maybe an hour, a couple of hour blocks if I'm lucky a week on top of that. But I wish I could do more.
Well, but by the way, how many units, how many loans, families are you guys serving per month on average?
Our goal is to serve 1,000 families this year. We're off on our goal. We're about 20% shy of that, but we had a really slow first quarter, so we still hope to be somewhere near that goal.
Okay, so by the way, everybody listen, think of the volume he's doing. So there's not only loans, problems, calls, teams.
Sure.
He's also a significant, real estate investor and an incredibly present father. And Josh is getting in a half an hour to an hour a day in content and personal improvement. So, I hope that's a reminder to every folks. And guys, and I know Josh listens to the YouTube videos often because he gives me comments on them and he asks me questions. And he even asks me which one should I watch next. So this is a personal productivity, I think, requirement. I do want to just shine a light. I'm showing the YouTube channel real quick. I got a great idea recently from Lori Richardson, and she said, what a great, body of information, and we created a playlist for new loan officers. So there is a new loan officer playlist that I would just say is a requirement for new loan officers. But I would say what's in here, if you're a mortgage coach and you haven't watched every one of these videos or listened to them, they're they are the 8 core requirements for a mortgage coach. So check out the new loan officer playlist and share it. By the way, if you're watching this, I'll put a link below just to make it super easy for you. So cool, Josh. I'll go ahead and take down the screen and I think we lost Coach Bill Hart. Let me just make sure we don't have one more chance to get Coach Bill Hart. Coach, have you left? Okay. He had a coaching call. So Josh, why don't you continue unpacking your five traits of the millionaire loan officer?
Okay, so this was the one that Bill had alluded to, which is bookend your days. And so now we're going to get a little more tactical. The first 2 are a little more dealing with how to prepare yourself for success. Also, we skipped over a quote that I would just love to bring back on the screen real quick. My favorite quote by Jim Rohn is, "Success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become, and the only way to become that person is to surround yourself and to continue to grow." So that is my all-time favorite quote by Jim Rohn. All right, bookend your days. So how do we make time for this tactically? What does that all look
Josh,
like?
Real quick, I do want to jump in because someone said, hey, can we keep up the quotes longer? So 1, I will keep them up a little longer, everybody. 2, remember, this is a mastermind. So 1, you can ask questions in the GoToMeeting. You can share quotes in chat. So like if you share a quote in chat, us as moderators, we can share it to everyone. So we'll try to be a little more interactive. And again, I also want to remind everybody, you can rewatch this. So I am going to leave them up longer, but you can rewatch this. Back to
Great. All right, bookend your days. So for me, when I think about trying to build a perfect day or a consistently productive day, it doesn't start in the morning. It starts the planning and the effectiveness of you being able to bookend and control your time starts with the time you leave the office, for me. So what I know is if I work late, 6, 7, 8, I've done that, and then I roll into my next day, I'm off, I'm not as effective, I'm operating at 60, 70%, I'm reactive instead of proactive, and it starts a downward cycle. So for me, I have this alert on my phone. I'll see if I can bring it up real quick on my calendar, but it says it's at 5:30 right at the bottom. I don't know if you can see it. It says go home now. And every day at 5:15, I get a pop-up on my, my iPhone and in my calendar, and it says 15 minutes, go home now. It actually says go home now, be 100% present, right? That's what we're all working on. And that's my cue, the 15 minutes to 5:30, that I look over to my right-hand man, Sam, and I say, okay, dude, what else do I need to do before I leave? Like, what's the 911 in here that can't wait till tomorrow morning? And we do a 15-minute battle plan. We wrap up that piece of the day, and I'm out. When I get home, and this is a constant discipline of trying to improve this, but I have a relatively short period of time between 5:30, 5:45, and kids are going to bed at 7:30. So it's, it's food, it's showers, it's read a book, it's getting the kids down, and then a few minutes of a positive type reading, like I mentioned, before I go to bed. And that, if I do that thing, if I leave on time, I've done a little bit of a battle plan of my next day between 5:15 and 5:30, and I have to leave. I get home, I love on my kids and family for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then I read a book and go to bed at a relatively early time. I know that I will be able to control my next day. I can roll into that day prepared, feeling great, I'm in step. So then the next day, and I don't think it matters what time you wake up. I think that's not as relevant as just making sure that you have a consistent schedule. So for me, that's up, vitamins, 20 ounces of lemon water, and I'm usually picking a project in the morning that I'm working on first thing. And I have about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on my wake-up time, where I can work on a big project. So we're working on an MSA right now. So we're working on that project. We're launching a new website, so I'll spend an hour working on that project. It's not just firing back emails and handling the reactive mode. This is my 45 minutes to an hour to be proactive, to try and figure out how do I grow our business, how do I try and grow our team, how do I take some steps forward. So Michael Gerber would say this is the on time, working on the business versus working in the business. First thing in the morning, get it out of the way. 30 minutes to an hour. For me, then it's exercise. It's an hour workout or quick run to the gym and back for family, showers with the kiddos, and into the office. We do an 8:15 gratitude meeting. Got this from a client that Bill Hart coached, and we've implemented that for about 4 years now. It's probably the coolest thing we've implemented ever in terms of our team. So all of the loan originators gather, and sometimes the ops team will come up. They all gather in my office. We spend 15 minutes from 8:15 to 8:30, and we just go around the room and we say what we're grateful for. So today I was grateful for vitality and health because I was sick on Tuesday, and then I worked a 16-hour day yesterday because my right-hand man Sam was out, and last night I got a good night's sleep, and was back on my morning routine, and I felt great. So that was my grateful. And then we say what we're going to do today. What are we going to accomplish today? I have 2 loans I have to get in. I want to have a great interview conversation with Dave Savage, and I have a loan officer coming in this afternoon. Those are the 3 things that I have to nail today. These are my must-dos. And then we roll into our day from there. Right after that session, that 8:50, yes?
Hey, real quick, I just want to jump in from an productivity perspective, guys. Think about it. Josh was talking about his jam session. I didn't talk on it, but my third jam session is what Aaron talks about. I talk about what Josh is a master at that. He'll have it in the call. So again, think through if you guys who are part of the team and let's think how Josh is really doing out what Aaron is.
Todd, we can't hear you really good, buddy. Can you come closer to the microphone, maybe?
All right, Dave gave me his other headphones since we had those audio challenges. So I was just really highlighting no, can you hear me now?
Perfectly.
Awesome. So yeah, I was just highlighting the fact that you just talked about getting up early, and doing a jam session, right? You said Michael Gerber calls it on time, which is really what insane productivity is all about, right? We know that that is such a critical piece, and I love the fact that you're setting, right, what are your proactive intentions for the day? And then, again, Bill highlighted it earlier, guys, so pay attention. Josh is totally bookending his day, and he's not saying my day has to start well. He's actually going back to the evening before and saying my day has to actually end well in order for it to start well the next day. So awesome job. I just want to highlight that for everyone else on the call.
Yeah, man, thanks. Bill mentioned the calibrating your day. And I don't know that I got that from Steve Jobs, although there might have been something in there. Darren Hardy's book, somebody help me with the name of it, Todd. His initial book that talked about calibrating your morning. What is it? The compound effect. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, in the compound effect, he talks a lot about creating the perfect morning, and he compares that to a golfer swinging the perfect swing. And that was really impactful for me and in really mapping out that morning period. And I know when I hit that, when I get my creative kind of energy out first thing in the morning, my day just goes better, because in the back of my mind, I'm not trying to get back to the creative thing that I knew was on my to-do list, keeping me out of being present with clients. I can just be done with that, and I can have my exercise and everything out of the way, and boom, now we roll into our day. Okay, so we have our gratitude meeting, and then we roll into 2 hours of prospecting. We go from 8:30 to 10:30. All cell phones are diverted to our office phones. All office phones are diverted to our secretary up front. She answers the phone for everybody. We're all in client consultations and on Do Not Disturb for 2 hours. And the reason we do that first thing in the morning is, you know, so many times you have lists of people that you need to get back to, or clients that you're supposed to follow up with, but emergencies happen. Things get you off track, and you don't end up doing that prospecting. And I will tell you, you know, Todd, you should speak a little bit about your book, The By Noon Effect. But by noon, we're virtually done with everything that's important in our day. We've been creative, we've gotten our workout, we had breakfast with the kids, we had a gratitude meeting with my teammates, we prospected hard for 2 hours to touch all the clients that we're supposed to touch that day, and then at like 11 o'clock, we're like, okay, well, we'll jump into some email and have some scheduled appointments, but by noon, we're pretty much there. I mean, we've accomplished what we really needed to accomplish for that day. And so Jocko Willink is my favorite quote on this, and we talk about it all the time in prospecting, but discipline equals freedom, right? Prospecting isn't always fun. It isn't always instantly rewarding, but if you're not on the phone and you're not touching people, then, you know, your business is never going to flourish. So discipline equals freedom. You want to talk a little bit about By Noon Effect, Todd?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll jump in real quick. I was gonna say something at the end, but I certainly appreciate the plug for Win by Noon, and I would say, Josh, you're part of the inspiration for it. What I found my last 18 months as an originator is I was supporting 2 big real estate teams, and they were prospecting every day as a group from 9 to noon. So even if you lived 90 minutes away, you were required to be in the office by 9, and you were going to prospect together as a team, right? Proactive. You know, there's nothing else that's more important than the prospecting piece, and I love the fact that you do it on the mortgage side. And so, you know, to me, we all know success leaves clues. And I think that it's pretty incredible how often I find that people start reacting so early in the day and they really never get to their most important priorities for the day. And so I love the fact that you highlight that that is just a critical piece of the success of your team. And you guys have taken it to the next level with the fact that everyone's phones are all forwarded, and you guys actually, you put up a barrier, because in the end, it's so hard to have that discipline. So, you know, kudos to you for getting the team and doing it. And you know, the rest of you who are watching, I mean, this is what it takes to be the best in the industry, right? If you're going to be the best, you have to make hard choices, and a hard choice is to block everything out in the morning so that you can do those most important priorities every day, really before noon, because then the rest of the day you guys are doing what, Josh, right? You're serving those clients, you're doing the client meetings, you're getting your mortgage code TCAs done, everything else that you need to do your business that's reactive, you guys can do afternoon, but you guys crushed it on prospecting, which you know is the critical driver of you guys, of your business.
Yeah, and not only that, on average, I'll probably have somewhere between 30 and 60 tasks that I need to get through. These tasks are clients that I need to touch in one way or another and follow up with them. And so if you touch 60 people via text, voicemail, email, or in person, you then have an entire day of people, getting back to you and in various stages of their day, and you can just kind of react to those as they go. Then, of course, you're going to have some time blocked out for meetings or what have you, but if you get it in the morning, it feeds you all day and keeps you productive. One other thing I'll say, Todd, on that is you mentioned the team. Our ops team now goes on Do Not Disturb from 8:30 until 11 o'clock. So, which is beautiful, right? Because our loan officers don't have any phone coming in. We ask them to please stay in their outboxes instead of their inboxes in their emails, and they can't even get a response from ops because ops is all on Do Not Disturb, doing their quiet time to make sure that they're doing a quality job from an operational standpoint. So it's worked out incredibly well for us, and I would recommend implementing that if anybody's not doing that. All right, I think we did bookend our days. End right, start right, as opposed to start right, end right. I think the thought process has to start with how you end the day. We jumped right into daily prospecting ritual. We do that for 2 hours. That was actually number 4, so I jumped ahead. So with 15 minutes left, let's jump into invest automatically. Pay yourself first. I'm passionate about this one because of my upbringing and seeing the challenge of not having some financial security. And I have seen, I'm sure a lot of you have seen, loan officers who have done phenomenally well through upswings. And every year as you climb and your business grows and you get more clients, you kind of lose your fear that things can go the other way. And you can get yourself to a place where you think that, well, next year is going to be better than this year because the year before that was better. And you start buying bigger cars and bigger toys and bigger trailers to hold toys and bigger boats, and then the music stops. And if you're not planning for one of those days, I don't think you're playing your cards right. We have to know that 2006 to 2008 or 10, that's going to happen again in some way or another in our lifetimes. And if we are not planning for that, we're going to be in trouble. When we went into that last crash, 4 out of the 5 top loan officers at the company I was with, within 12 months of the crash, filed bankruptcy or had homes foreclosed upon. And I just thought, oh my gosh, how did we have a 10-year run and we couldn't, you guys couldn't make it 1 year without this growing income thing? And it's because you think every year is going to be bigger than the next. So how do you get away from that? And especially new loan officers that didn't get to see the crash. At least I was fortunate enough to see the crash and know that it's real. How do we get away from that? And this is the thought process of paying yourself first. And Todd, I'd love you to speak to this too, but currently what I'm doing is I'm using Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a super cool app that allows you to invest with very low fees. It's like 0.1%. You know, if you're using a financial advisor, they're probably charging you a point, plus they're putting you into mutual funds potentially, and those have another point to 1.5. So you're paying 2.5% in fees, which could be, half your returns. And so Wealthfront has extremely low fees, around 0.1%. It invests they invest globally. So they'll say, hey, look, the U.S. is 40% of GDP in the world. You shouldn't have 100% of your money there. You should have 40% there, and you should have 60% on emerging markets or developed economies that are foreign held, or REITs or bonds. So very low cost, diversified, and what I love the most about Wealthfront is the automatic debits. That I schedule my debits, so whatever days my paychecks come in, the day after the debits go out. So there isn't a time period where the bank account ever builds up. Get a deposit, money's gone. Get a deposit, money's gone. And you will be absolutely amazed if you do this for 6 to 12 months. how quickly this can grow and how you don't even miss the fact that the money's out of your account because you just get used to living on a lower amount of money. I didn't always have Wealthfront. So before Wealthfront came out, we had a similar type process where we would move money from personal account into a business account, and then we invested in real estate, and that was really what we did for the first 20 years. Wealthfront is just recently. So I don't think it matters how you do it. The point is it needs to be automatic. You need to have an automatic out of your account into some sort of a savings, and you need to be thinking about what does the next crash look like and how am I going to deal with it. And not only that, how am I going to thrive through it? I mean, while everybody else is crashing and worrying about their houses being foreclosed on and filing bankruptcy, you can just be like, I got a fat nest egg. I'm going to go help a whole bunch of realtors figure out how to get through this next recession. And that's what we should all be preparing for.
Josh, this is very awesome. I want to make sure if anybody has questions, go ahead and post those in the webinar. So please post your questions. Let me see which ones I'm going to get to. So let's see, we've got 10 minutes. So first thing I want to do, just so we can engage the audience, I want to remind everybody.
You really need both those headphones in order for us to hear you well. Sorry, buddy.
Thanks for the heads up on that. Is that better?
Yeah.
All right. So everybody, we want to make sure that we spend this last 2 minutes taking action. I'm going to hand off the 2 headphones to Todd in just a minute. So it starts with dreaming big. You notice Josh is always feeding his mind. He's always getting better. He's listening to the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. He's bookending his day. He's super clear about what he's going to do. By the way, Josh, I do want to make sure before I hand it off to Todd, we talk about how you develop the total cost analysis habit, because I know for a fact, if you did not book in your day, if you did not watch content, you would have never got there. You would have never got to the point where you are today as a mortgage coach. And then, of course, prospecting. I mean, I interview the best loan officers in America, and I've never interviewed a top 1%er that doesn't have this down. And usually I look at whatever their production level and their income level is tied to how well they execute their perfect loan process, which total cost analysis is part of, and how many people they talk to as prospects. And some formula between number of people they talk to, great perfect loan process with a conversion equals income equals loan production. And obviously I'll bring Todd back in and you and him can rip on Invest Automatically. So now, Josh, if we could just do a minute on the total cost analysis, how you've built that as a success habit, and then I'll turn it over to Todd. We'll wrap up the 5 traits. And now we're going to add a 6th trait, total cost analysis for the Millionaire Loan Officer.
Yeah. Feel free to make it number 1, Dave. It doesn't have to be 6. Just swipe and deploy, man. The first thing I'd say is I'm assuming that most people are already doing total cost analysis and it's part of their process. But if you're not, and you're like me, and it's challenging to get going, I would just give you, I would hope for you that you will push through that and make yourself do 10 to 12, because at I think 7, I told Dave I wanted to quit. He firmly kicked me in the butt and grabbed me by the back of the neck, and I'm extremely grateful for that. By 10, I had a referral coming up from a financial advisor who had seen the video in the total cost analysis and said it was the most amazing thing he'd ever seen, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. So if you haven't gotten to 10 or 12, just promise me that you will do that, please. So that's number 1. The way we use this total cost analysis, and by the way, now I think I've done about 1,500. Drake Bladebaugh, my business partner, mortgage partner, he's probably close to 1,000. It is ubiquitous in our branch. Everybody uses a total cost analysis. That's it. And we have loan officer assistants who are hired to create these. They are brilliant. They are gifted. They are way better at creating these than I am. And so you can, once you learn it individually, you can delegate that to people that have probably better skills than you and I might have in creating them. They do a great job. So that's part of the evolution, but I do think you need to learn it first. And the way we use a total cost analysis is when we're in a conversation with a client, we're asking them a set preset list of questions that's built into our CRM system. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, what kind of challenges are you going to have in financing? Very few of my clients are, I have 30% down and an 800 FICO score and I want to buy a $400,000 house, right? And there's always some hair. So I'm trying to figure out, what are the challenges? Do we have employment contracts? Do we have student loans? Do we have less than 20% down? And then as I'm bringing that out of them, I'm saying, great, based on what I heard you say, I think you would find a lot of value in this total cost analysis. What I'm going to do is create a presentation for you that will have all the numbers that you would need to analyze the different loan options, and I'm going to give you 2 or 3, maybe 4 options, and then it's going to line those options up and show you the total cost of each of those loans over a 5 to 10 year period, because one of my questions was, how long do you think you're going to be in the house or mortgage? Another question could be, when do you want to be mortgage free? That's one of our last questions in our questionnaire. What's your goal to be mortgage free? Geez, I hadn't thought about that. Well, I retire in 22 years. Okay, well then let's build a 22-year loan instead of a 30-year loan. So as I'm bringing all that information out, I immediately start selling the value of the total cost analysis. And I said, based on what I heard you say, I really want to create this total cost analysis for you. It's going to allow me to compare and contrast the total cost of each of these loan options over the time horizon you said you're going to be in the house. The next step would be to complete our client questionnaire. I can text that to you, and you can do it on your mobile device, or I can shoot you an email. What would you prefer? And at that point, the conversation could go left or go right, but more often than not, I'm hearing people say, so how do I get that? How do I get that total cost analysis or that cost thing again? I said, oh, we fill out the client questionnaire. Okay, can you make sure you send that to me? So instead of me asking them to go, do a loan application, I have correctly positioned the conversation around, I am going to be able to show you what the best loan option for you is, lowest cost over the time horizon you're going to be in the home. No loan estimate can do that. No fee worksheet can do that. You have to have this advice if you really want to make a wise decision. And that's how we frame it.
Love it. Love it. So we're going to be hitting up on the 10 o'clock hour here soon, so I'm going to call an audible and just tell Josh he's coming back on so we can do an hour of Q&A with Josh Mettle, because I think this is just a hugely powerful call, and I really appreciate you jumping in and running through that process. And we're getting just a ton of questions that we're not going to have time to get to. So, I kind of want to just sort of help us put a bow on a couple of things that Josh said today and kind of make it actionable for all of you. A couple C's to start with. Curious, right? I've known Josh for 7, 8 years in Masters Coach together, and he asks the best questions. He's the guy who listens, and then he asks really pointed questions to get the most out of it. And then obviously you hear him today, he's super transparent and he's willing to share. And so it's really been one of my favorite things about knowing Josh, right? Although I'm Josh's coach now, I was his friend first for all these years, and just really value you, Josh, and your friendship, and appreciate that part. He's also coached, right? Ironically, him and I both were coached by Bill Hart for years, right? Bill's a pretty amazing guy, and he's been part of our lives, and I think that's really important too. Who are your mentors, right? And you don't necessarily have to pay for a mentor, right? We already talked about the YouTube channel here. I think there's so many mentors you can get, but he does have a one-on-one personal coach, which I think is great. I love the investment piece. Josh and I used to do a Saturday call every day where we actually traded investments that we were doing. So, find someone else to help you with that. Set up that discipline. I think that's really important. I think just look at your day, right? Josh is so proactive with what he does, right? And he is someone who plans what he does. He plans for the people around him and just makes his people better, right? So just think, how are you doing that? How can you implement some of the things that we learned? And so I always say when we get off this call, right, this is your time to do on time, right? Do a jam session coming out of here. And I would spend just a few minutes really take a look at your notes, right? I can tell you, I've got a bunch of scribbles in my planner on notes that I've been taking while we've been going through, and figure out what your next actions are. And then Dave and I will figure out with Josh's busy schedule when we can pull him away from his prospecting time with his team to do another call. I'm going to hand these headphones off to Dave so he can close us out. But thanks, buddy. It was good seeing you on there today.
Ditto. Thanks a lot, Todd.
Josh, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So this has been a super powerful hour. I think this is definitely one of the all-time best Mortgage Coach calls. I'm going to add this to the playlist. So within our Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, we have a playlist called All Time. This is going there. I'm going to show on my screen real quick, just to remind everybody that this is being recorded. So in the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, there is a playlist for our Friday Mastermind, Productivity Mastermind. So at the bottom, we have this playlist. Also, if you go to this playlist, you can just click to all the playlists, and you can find all the playlists. So this is recorded. It's here. Like I said, it's also going to be in our all-time playlist. Josh, I'm super grateful for you taking the time to lead. As Todd said, we got a lot of questions, and we just didn't have time to get them all. So sorry about that to anybody that didn't get your questions answered, but we will have Josh back. Josh, I'm looking forward to seeing you next week on site in Dallas. And everybody, we are going to call this a wrap. If you could answer the survey question that I'm posting right now, let us know what you thought of today's call as you leave. Did we surpass your expectations with awesome value? Few good takeaways. If you're a guest at this call, you're not a Mortgage Coach member and you want to learn more, let us know that too. So anyways, Josh, I can tell you right now, I think this is the all-time best reviewed call that we've done. I mean, it's like practically 100% awesome, tons of value. So grateful, brother. Thank you for all the value that you bring to my life and that you bring to this amazing community called the Mortgage Coach community.
Hey, man, I don't think I could repay you from the amount of value, and the people that you bring together in these calls are incredible, and I aspire every day to be on the same level as these guys. So if you're not watching that YouTube channel, you're crazy.
Yeah, and by the way, remember everybody, we posted at least one question. What is your big vision? What is your big goal? Please, answer that question, play it forward, inspire other people, be a leader. We started the whole thing with this question. What is your big idea? What is your big vision? Make sure you share that on our YouTube channel for everybody to see. Josh, have a fantastic weekend, brother.
Thanks, buddy. You too. Take care, Dave.
Take care, everybody.